YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger. Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger episode 36. So this episode was overall a pretty solid follow-up to last week's aftermath of finding out that Hakaiser is Kaito's dad. It's something the audience pretty much already knew, but the characters are just figuring out for the first time. And kind of in classic Zenkaiger fashion, it blends together a Monster of the Week plot with the main plot, and it does a pretty good job of it as per usual. At the beginning, you just have Kaito talking with Zox about how, basically, this is my dad, we can't hurt him if he comes into battle, and we kind of set the stage for that, and we set the stage for Zox wanting to help in his own unique way. Because the two things you have going on in this episode is the Monster of the Week, which is the Jack-in-the-Box monster, which makes shiz pop out everywhere. So the Rangers are dealing with that through the episode, and then Zox has a plan to basically get Hakaiser to be drawn out into the open, and he actually kidnaps the Jack-in-the-Box monster and wants to use it to draw Hakaiser out, but it winds up backfiring on him because Tank Guy shows up. Barashita, or whatever his name is, I call him Tank Guy. And there's also a little bit of an interesting thing going on with the villains, where the big boss guy, I guess, didn't understand to what extent the professor was using the Zenkaiger resources and the resources of his parents, and he's kind of mad that he didn't know. Like, he's like, yeah, you did good, but that still doesn't excuse the fact that I didn't know to what extent this was all involved with. And so he kind of sends the Tank Guy out there and puts him in charge, and then he's the one that shows up to Zox's trap instead of Hakaiser like he had planned, and everything basically goes to hell, and the monster actually uses his ability on Zox's morpher, so he can't morph. Like, when he goes to pop open the gear shift thing, it just pops up a Jack-in-the-Box thing. And it's actually kind of intense because it leads to him having to fight as a civilian, both like a general monster and a Monster of the Week, so I thought there were some pretty good scenes there, with everything just kind of going haywire because of that. And then when the other Rangers show up, things continue to go to hell, and like a fire gets started in the warehouse that they were holding him in, and Flint gets trapped in there, and the Rangers use the Go-Go 5 Lightspeed Rescue powers to save them. And that was pretty neat. There was a couple neat little gear uses within this episode. Like, I really liked that one because obviously it conveys the rescue theme, but just the way it was shot with them running into the fire, it's very reminiscent from like rescue scenes from those series. So that was nice. There was also a scene earlier when Zox used the Gosei Knight gear and he actually transformed into the Gosei Knight header. So a couple fun little uses this week with that. But anyway, they save her. And then when Zox has to morph, they're like, well, you can morph if you just hold it down so it doesn't pop up. And there's a funny scene where, like, they tell him how to do that, but then he has a hard time with it because he insists on dancing. They're like, can you just stop once? And I'm like, I agree. I was annoyed by the stupid dance from the first episode, but it was just pretty funny. Like, they didn't have a unique roll call this week, but the unique henshin was them trying to get TwoKaiser to realize, like, you could make this so much easier by not dancing, which is just pretty funny. Then Hakaiser finally does show up, and of course Kaito's like, Dad! I mean, like, he's basically turned into Tyler at this point, and he's trying to convince him to come back to the light or whatever. And then you have Stacy getting involved, because Stacy earlier in the episode at the base was kind of standing over Hakaiser in stasis, and his reflection is basically, he's never felt like anyone's on his side. Side? I'm on nobody's side because nobody's on my side. Or something like that. Basically, Hakaiser feels like the first person that was ever on his side and was his first true ally, and he's mad that Zenkaiser would take that away from him. So he joins the fight too, and he's like, you don't get to have him in addition to everything else, which is an interesting point of view, but at the same time, I feel like Kaito's been reaching out to him the whole series. If he just joined them, then he would have all kinds of friends. And then when we get to the final big mecha fight, the funny gimmick this week has Vroom Majin going to wake up the monster in an interview setting. Honestly, I think it was just one of the funniest scenes I've seen from like the unique mech fights. Just from seeing the mech pull up with the microphone and get ready to interview him when they're sleeping, I just thought it was pretty funny. And then after we take the monster out, at the end, Kaito's basically mad at Zox for his plan being reckless, because he's like, you don't understand. I'm the protagonist. I'm the only point of view and the only method. That's what I got from that scene. Like, yeah, Zox's plan was reckless. Maybe he could have talked to Kaito about it. I feel like that would have been a situation it would have been nice if he would have told Kaito his plan and they could have formulated a way to make a plan like this safe, and it would have been a good way. But if he had come to him, it would have been a similar conversation like, my name's Kaito, I'm the protagonist, it's my only way, I'm never going to change my character, and I just shriek stuff. So, I don't know, that just annoys me because I always hate that when it's only the protagonist method that's considered the right way. Because, like, yeah, Zox's plan backfired, but I kind of respected what he was going for. But Overall, a solid episode. I would say it was a 3 out of 5. It was just a solid, decent episode. I think classic Zenkaiger for me is, like I said at the beginning of the review, is blending together a Monster of the Week plot with whatever its unique powers are and some funny, entertaining stuff with the main plot. And this episode did it fairly well. But what did you guys think of the episode? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.